Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Bible lessons. We've been in the book of Judges, and we learned last time that God chose Gideon to be the leader of an army to fight off their enemies, the Midianites. Wow. God chose Gideon because the Midianites were sneaking into their land at harvest time and stealing all of the people's food, the Israelites' food. And this has been going on for 7 years. Well, God had sent the Midianites because the people had turned away from him and worshiped false gods. Well, after 7 years, the people were getting really hungry, and they finally realized they needed to cry out to God and turn back to him. And God heard their prayers. And God sent an angel to talk to Gideon. And the angel told Gideon, "You're the one that's going to save Israel." And Gideon was so scared. He said, "No, couldn't be me." He was humble. He said, "I don't see why God chose me." But God increased his faith. And God helped Gideon to trust in him. You know, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding." Proverbs 3, 5. That means don't think you can figure it out. Trust in God. You know, we're supposed to trust God and what he tells us and what he says. This will build up our faith that we can believe him. And we need to obey him. And Gideon would do that. He had obedience in his life. That's why God chose him. We have a nice little chorus that talks about trusting and obeying. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Let's sing that through again. You want to sing with me? Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. That is so true in all our lives, not just Gideon. But Gideon is growing in his faith, and he's learning to trust God. Well, Gideon has called together the men of Israel, the army, and he has 32,000 men have come to help fight because they are tired of the Midianites stealing their food too. So they gather together, but you know how many soldiers are in the Midianite army? 120,000. That's a lot bigger number than 32,000, isn't it? Oh no, Gideon thinks we need more. We're going to need more men. But you know what God said to him? He says, "I think you got too many soldiers, Gideon. They're going to think they won the battle and not think I did it. God did it." And God didn't want that. And Gideon thought, "What?" And God told him, "I think you need to send home whoever is fearful and afraid. Let him return and depart." Gideon was so surprised. He was sure he needed every soldier he had to fight such a huge army. But you know what he did? He obeyed God. See, he didn't lean to his own understanding. He didn't think, well, that can't be true. We need every soldier. He did what God told him. Wow, even though it was very unusual. So Gideon told them, "Any of you that are afraid, you can go home." Do you know how many people went home? The Bible says that 22,000 went away. That only left 10,000 soldiers left. They took off. They were like, "We're out of here." Oh no. Whew. Now Gideon's sure they're going to need all those. But you know what God said? "You still have too many soldiers. want you to march them down to the water, and I will tell you who you shall go with you to fight and who shall go back home." So they went down to the water. And Gideon's surprised again. Oh my. But you know what Gideon did? He obeyed. And he sent them down to the water. And the Lord said to Gideon, "Everyone that lappeth up the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, thou shalt set him by himself." Put that group over there. "Likewise, everyone that boweth down on his knees to drink," in other words, put them over there. So he divided them into two groups. Now, can you see the men where you just see the head of them? And they're drinking like a dog would drink? But then there's a few of them that are standing straight up, and they'll take the water in their hand and drink like this. Well, so God told them, all those men that got down on their knees to drink like a dog lappeth, those men send home, because they weren't watching around them. And then he said, "Take the men with you that dipped their hand in the water and drank while they were looking around. Those are the men that will help you fight to set Israel free." Oh no, he's got to send more men home? Is he going to do it? Well, he does. He sent more men home. And now he counts who's left. And you know how many were left? 300. So that meant 9,700 went home. He's only got 300 left to fight 120,000 Midianite soldiers. Yikes! Gideon must wonder what's going on. But you know, he just kept obeying, even though he didn't understand it. He didn't lean to his own understanding. He was trusting in the Lord, wasn't he? Wow. It was sure building up his faith, just like it does our faith when we obey the Lord, when we don't understand. But I can't say that Gideon wasn't frightened. He was. And God knew this. So he told him one more thing. He said, "Gideon, take your servant Purah with you and sneak down into the camp of the Midianites at night." So Gideon did it. And he heard two enemy soldiers talking. Can you see them there? And the first one said, "I had a dream. Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the hosts of Midian, and came unto a tent, and smote it, and it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay along." So dreams are kind of funny, huh? And he dreamed a big loaf of bread came into the camp and knocked over a tent. And the other enemy soldier said back to him, "This is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hand hath God delivered Midian and all the hosts." That meant even the enemy knew that Gideon would win the battle. Wow, that sure gave Gideon the confidence to go now. He knew God would help him. So when Gideon heard that dream, the telling of the dream and the interpretation of it, he returned. Oh, it says first he worshiped. That means he thanked God. Boy, we need to remember to do that, don't we? And then Gideon returned to the hosts, his 300 men of Israel, and said, "Arise, for the Lord hath delivered into your hand the hosts of Midian." So God told Gideon the plan. He took the 300 men and he divided them into three groups. And he gave each man a trumpet. So he had 300 trumpets. This was their battle weapons now. And he gave each man a torch with fire on it. Wow. Different kind of a battle weapon, huh? And then he gave each man a pitcher, a clay pitcher, that they were to put on top of their torch. Their torch was to go inside it. Now, I have a clay pitcher here, but it's probably not clay, it's probably ceramic, and it's little. But if I took a hammer and smashed this thing, how would it sound? Really loud. Well, we're going to find out what happens. So he divided them up and he told them, now, we're going to surround the army. We're going to do 300 or 100 on this side, 100 on this side, and 100 on this side, on the three sides of the army. And then he said unto them, look on me and do likewise. When I blow with the trumpet, and I and all that are with me on my side, then blow ye with the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and say, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. Well, they did it. They crept in there at night, and they were waiting for Gideon's signal. And when it came, they blew with their trumpets, and then they break the pitcher. Remember that loud noise that would make? The crashing of the pitcher? But also, you know what it did? It made the light from the torches shine in the dark night. Wow. And they screamed, what? The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. And the lighted torches, which had been hidden under the pitchers, seemed to light up the whole mountainside. See them way back in there? Well, as unusual as this sounds, God used this to confuse the enemy. The Midianites woke up with a start of the sound, and they were scared to death, and they saw these lights all around them, and they thought they were surrounded by a huge army. And they were terrified, and they started fighting and killing each other. They didn't even have to fight. Gideon and his men won the battle because God had been with them and helped them. And because they obeyed, didn't they? They did what God said, even when it didn't seem to make sense. They didn't think, oh, we can't do this, we'll get killed. No, they didn't lean to their own understanding. See, God doesn't need a great number of people to win the victory. He needs one willing and obedient man like Gideon to serve him. Do you know God is still looking for willing and obedient people to serve him? Will you be willing to let God use you? Will you be obedient to what he wants you to do? Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Doing exactly what the Lord commands, doing it happily. Action is the key, do it immediately. Joy you will receive. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Let's spell it O-B-E-D-I-E-N-C-E. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Wow, we can sure learn a lot from Gideon, can't we?